Major climate assessment released by the White House. That report shows effects of climate change are getting worse in every part of the country. Its authors say, quote, climate changes are making it harder to maintain safe homes and healthy families, and that those challenges will worsen as temperatures rise. But the report also shows progress being made. U.S. emissions are going down even as the population and demand for energy goes up. Now President Biden says the country needs to come together to take action.
This assessment shows us in clear scientific terms that climate change is impacting all regions, all sectors of the United States, not just some, all. It shows that communities across America are taking more action than ever to reduce climate risk. It warns that more action is still badly needed. We can't be complacent. Let me say that again. We can't be complacent.
Let's bring in our chief meteorologist and head of ABC's climate unit, Ginger Z, and national climate advisor Al Zaidi for more on this. What stands out to you most, Ginger, from this report and these findings?
I think just starting at the top is that this is the first report of this magnitude to really point to the inequities as far as climate change. People black and brown, people with, as the president was saying, disabilities, all being impacted on a greater scale than anyone else. There really hasn't been something from the U.S. that has said that. We've seen that from the UN, we've seen that from global reports, but it was really, stunning to finally see that we're seeing that even here in our country. We also know it's about money. Climate change costs. And between 2018 and 2022, they had a map up, and we have that map there that really signifies how much we've spent in just that 4-year period to disaster alone, $90+ billion in Florida in a 4-year period. And it struck me, Diane, that from the 1980s, when we used to have an average of about $1 billion disaster once every 4 months, we today have one every 3 weeks. And I think that that is really big. And as much as the Biden administration has done, there have been baby steps taken. It's not just not being complacent, it's that we have to run as fast as we can to make change.
Ali, the report also says that the U.S. has reduced greenhouse gas emissions. How significant is that?
This is a big deal. Look, this assessment is not just an assessment that shows us there's a lot of risk in our communities. It shows us that there's a lot of economic opportunity if we chase after the solutions. And that's exactly what the president has done. He's passed the largest climate investment in the history, not just of the United States, but anywhere in the world. So this is a big deal, and it's inspiring climate action faster and faster all across the world. That's what we need to do. We need to travel quickly in the right direction.
Ginger, on a practical level, is this enough to really make a change?
What we're doing now, no. And I think the report says that. We know that. What I think that we'll see, and we do see in the UN and the WRI report today, is a much grimmer picture, and it puts a lot of pressure on the developed countries, the United States and China, to make change the fastest. Going into COP28, that is going to be the big responsibility and what we hear a lot about. What I also think needs to be taken away, and I would open this question to all of us here, is how much of the emissions responsibility do not only we hold because of our legacy load. The U.S. still has emitted more carbon than any other country. We still per capita emit more than any other country. And indirectly, because of our reliance on China and the goods that we purchase from there are part of their emissions too. Is that part of the solution? And I think I'd like to hear more about that.
Ali, what do you say? What's your response to that?
You know, on the first Earth Day here at the White House, when the president took office, he brought together the major economies of the world. And since then, he's been very clear. The major economies of the world need to make the major emissions reductions. And it's not just talk. Not only has the president passed the largest climate investment here in the United States, he's been able to bring together hundreds of nations around the world around this proposition. For example, on methane, which is this super polluting climate gas that comes out of oil and gas operations, we've been able to not only take bold steps to reduce our methane emissions here, we've got over 100 nations around the world that have signed on to the president's global methane pledge. So that's what it's going to take. It's going to take the U.S. stepping up in a big way. It's going to require major economies reducing major emissions, and it's going to require the work of diplomacy to bring all of the countries of the world together to do what we need to do to go as quickly as possible to attack this challenge.
Ali, it's also going to require cooperation from Congress. We just heard the president detail how there's still a lot of pushback from people across the aisle. So what is the White House doing to try to get Republicans to the table here? Because without some compromise here, without these conversations happening on both sides of the aisle, right now, it doesn't look like it'll get done. So what's the White House doing about that?
Look, this president has been able to pass the first environmental treaty through the United States Congress on a bipartisan basis in decades. He passed the bipartisan infrastructure law, which, by the way, was passed 2 years ago, has billions of dollars invested across the country, votes from Democrats and Republicans to stand up things like electric vehicle chargers and modernize our grid. But I'm not going to sugarcoat it. There are folks in Congress, MAGA Republicans, who want us to go the wrong direction on this. They want to bury their head in the sand on climate change, and they want to cede the opportunity on clean energy, the jobs that come with it, to countries like China and folks around the world, sideline our workers. We will not be for that. The president has been very clear. We have to make these solutions in America. We have to deploy these solutions in America. We have to export them all around the world. That is what this administration is focused on. We're going to try to bring everyone to the table around that proposition.
Ali, it's Ginger here. You talked about a lot of the solutions, and I know that it's all of the above. But if you had to prioritize, what is number one? What makes the biggest dent?
Look, the number one thing as we try to decarbonize our economy is to get clean electricity flowing from sources like solar and wind, nuclear and hydropower to as far reaching into our economy as possible. Repowering the way our buildings work, making sure we can get from point A to point B by charging instead of being dependent on foreign fossil fuels. So that is the key widget, is clean electricity flowing through the economy. Every sector of the economy, there's an opportunity to reduce our emissions if we can plug it into a clean grid.
All right, Chief Meteorologist Ginger Zaidi, National Climate Advisor Ali Zaidi. Ali, thank you. Ginger, thank you.
Hi, everyone. George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel. And don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.